The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, thank you for tuning in. 10 minutes before 11 o'clock. You ever saw the images of Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the atomic bombs were dropped on those two cities? You know that this is a weapon that, I don't know. I think it shouldn't exist anymore. We shouldn't have them anywhere. Vincent Manzo is on the phone. He's an expert in nuclear weapons policy, and he's a research scientist at CAN, which is a nonprofit research and analysis organization in Washington, D.C. I honestly don't know what CAN stands for, so we'll find out. He's on the phone to talk to us about a new study that looks at the national security risks and the United States' options for nuclear arms control without a treaty, and it's in the news every day. It was in the news this morning regarding the North Korean talks that we've had and have failed with and all that other stuff. Vincent Manzo, good morning, Vincent. It's an honor to have you on our show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
Arlington, Virginia.
And I have to apologize. I transposed the N and the A, so it's CNA. I'm sorry.
CNA, okay.
My fault.
And what does that stand for, Vincent?
Center for Naval Analysis.
For naval analysis, okay. So tell me about what you do and what the study showed.
Sure. So our study looked at the role that nuclear weapons play in U.S.-Russia relations, and for a long time, the United States and Russia have relied on arms control as a means to reduce suspicion and fear and help reduce the likelihood of nuclear war and a nuclear arms competition. We think that's an important role, and it's been very valuable thus far. However, there are some challenges to the future of nuclear arms control. We don't know if the United States and Russia are going to extend the current treaty that's in place, and we don't know whether they're going to be able to come to an agreement on a treaty to replace it when it does expire in the future. And so what we did in our study was look at what happens if you lose an arms control treaty as a means for limiting weapons and for providing transparency between the United States and Russia on military capabilities, and ultimately for providing both countries confidence that they have the forces they need to protect themselves, and they don't need to build more than they currently have.
Okay, on the risk that the YouTube video that will result from this interview, what I'm about to ask is probably going to get people making fun of me, but I have to ask this question because I don't know the answer, and it's probably something that is going to sound stupid. But is the atomic bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, is that the same as the nuclear weapons we're talking about now, or is it two different things? Help me out with that.
Well, sure. I mean, they're different weapons, but it's the same type of system essentially. We have weapons that are far more powerful than the atomic bomb used in World War II, and so that's been one of the things the United States and Russia have been trying to do for years, with some success and some regression. Is reduce the number and types that they have through mutual reductions and through arms control agreements, and really to try and prevent either side from deploying more and going up again.
But I'm guessing that neither side will ever be without them because we don't trust each other.
Well, I think that's a good point. It's hard to envision a world where we can completely eliminate nuclear weapons, and I think the best way to get towards that world would be to try and resolve some of the underlying disputes and disagreements between the United States and Russia. But arms control is a useful tool in the meantime to help reduce suspicion and fear and reduce the risk of nuclear conflict.
When we hear about attempts or efforts to develop anti-nuclear missile things, for example, we've heard that North Korea could send a missile toward San Francisco, but we could shoot it out of the sky. If we shot it out of the sky, wouldn't it explode and wouldn't it be devastating anyway?
Well, so the the missile defense systems we're developing, if they work effectively, and the idea is that they would be able to intercept and destroy the nuclear weapon before it detonates, and so it wouldn't detonate.
Oh wow!
Over the United States is the idea.
Oh my gosh!
If they work.
So you are. I mean, what you do is so important to us. I mean, just so that we're safe, and it sounds like what you do helps people who will be safe, even if they're not considered a friendly nation. It's all for the better of everybody, isn't it?
Well, ultimately, the United States, I think, has an obligation to try and manage the global threat from nuclear weapons, and part of that is through having capabilities to deter others from using nuclear weapons. Part of it is through trying to cooperate with countries like Russia, with whom we have lots of disagreements, but we do have shared interest in avoiding nuclear conflict. And part of it is working with countries all over the world, trying to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and prevent more countries from building nuclear weapons, and get countries like North Korea to hopefully agree to begin eliminating the ones that they have built.
Do the politicians listen to you?
Oh, I hope so.
Well, so I would say we have a strong tradition in the United States of bipartisanship on nuclear policy, and that policy is often informed by dedicated national security professionals in the government and some of the experts outside the government who help think through and study these issues. So I can never predict what's going to happen in the future, but this is one area where I think the United States has had a sensible policy, and particularly since the end of the Cold War, there's been, I think, a strong tradition of cooperation between the parties on a sensible nuclear policy.
And that makes sense, yeah. Because I could imagine, a naive person, naive, I don't mean that in a negative way, just young and not maybe knowing enough, or just don't have to be young, but they become a congressperson and they say, I want peace in the world, I want to get rid of all nuclear weapons. And maybe it's not the best thing. Maybe having nuclear weapons prevents nuclear war. I don't know. Do you think there's any truth to that?
I think so. So President Obama said that as long as nuclear weapons exist, the United States needs to have a safe, secure, and effective deterrent. And I would say that approach has continued into the Trump administration. And I think the challenge is trying to prevent the use of nuclear weapons, try and work towards reductions in numbers and types, and reduce the potential for conflict, while recognizing that we have a long way to go before you get to complete disarmament. And if you move too quickly and without cooperation from other countries like Russia and China, it probably would be dangerous for the United States and its allies, and really the world.
I wanted to mention that we are a country that prides ourselves in the "we the people" philosophy. So we want to be the ones who tell our elected officials what we think. And I'm wondering if the study would help us, because this is really one of those areas we think we know, but we may not know as much as we need to know in order to, tell our congresspeople how we feel. Does the study help us in that regard? I'm trying to put two and two together. How does doing a radio tour like you're doing help the average person? What do we do?
Yeah, so I hope so. That was certainly the goal. The study is available on our website, anyone at www.cna.org. Anyone can go download it and read it. And I hope what it helps everyone do is appreciate this is the purpose of arms control. This is the role arms control's played in U.S. and Russian relations. And here are some of the risks if we no longer have arms control treaties. And so we can all kind of have a common understanding of what might happen if the United States and Russia aren't able to reach another agreement on a treaty, and what we might be able to do about that if we do find ourselves in that world. But as of now, we still have a treaty in place, and we could extend it out to 2026. And so I think that would be a good idea in the near term, and you can read the report, and it sort of explains why.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I'm glad you said that. Could you give us the website again, please?
Sure. It's www.cna.org.
Okay, excellent. Vincent, thank you for the work you do. And I do think this is one of those areas where if we, the people, understand it better, we will have a better understanding of how to vote and what to write to our Congress members. Thank you. Thank you, Vincent, for being on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios. This